Welcome to Session Sunday. Hi guys, it's Jack Edwards and today's session is focusing on crossing and finishing. But before we get into this week's video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and if you missed last week's video, click on the link above. Okay, so moving into the first part of this week's session, we're going to be looking at a sequence where we're going to be switching the play to then cross and finish. But before we get into it, let's have a look at how many players we're working with this week and the equipment that we'll be using as well. So we have 14 players, including 2 goalkeepers, so 12 outfield players. If you don't have 2 goalkeepers, like we've said many times before, try and put a coach in goal or a parent. And if you can't use that, then try and put areas in the goal for the players to aim. So when they're shooting, if you put some poles or some cones in the goal, so which separates the middle and the corners, okay, you can then do, score. If they score in the corners, they get a point. If they score down the middle, they don't, because it's more likely that the goalkeeper will save it. In terms of the equipment that we'll be using, it's balls, bibs, cones, poles if you have them, and obviously we'll be using goals. If you don't have goals, again, you can just use poles or cones to mark out the area for the goal. In terms of the setup for this part of the session, okay, we're going to be going 40 yards of depth, okay? It's going to be 30 yards from this pole here to this pole there, okay, and 5 yards either side. And then we're going to have 15 yards, so we're going to have 10, 20, and then 30, okay? So it's going to be 10 yards between each one. If you want to adapt and make one area bigger, that's fine, okay? It's up to you, and obviously what age group you're working with as well. You might want to increase it if you're working with older players. You might want to decrease it a little bit as well if you're working with younger players, because obviously a switcher play might be a bit more difficult for them. Okay, so the sequence, we're going to have players starting wide, players starting deep in midfield, our striker, and then our winger here. Okay, so we're both working off the same side, so progress it. To progress the session, you want to obviously change it up. You can set up areas on the other side. You only need to put 2 more poles in and then bring these ones a bit further out, okay? So when you're going to change sides and work on the opposite foot. So the ball's going to start with the wide player here. So we're splitting our group into 2 groups of 6. The ball's going to get played into our deepest player here, who's going to open out, okay? They're going to play into the central player, who's then going to play back for them to receive on the run. If the players have got the ability to do it, they can play a first time pass, okay? Otherwise, we're looking for them to take a touch into space and then play in front to the wide player, who's going to obviously receive it on the run. The wide player is then looking to drive into space, okay, with our striker making a run, okay, not straight into the box, angling the run, okay? So first off, we want them to pull off into space, because then we've got a chance to attack the back post, attack the front post, and obviously attack the middle of the box as well. So it can either be a cutback, so if the winger takes the ball in front of them quite a lot, or the ball goes in front of them and they've got to meet it and then cut it back, that's fine. Or it might come near to them in the air, where they're going to take a touch on the chest or on the knee to control it, then take it out the feet, and then you might whip the ball in for the striker to finish. Okay, in terms of our movement, okay, so let's go back to the start so we can do our movement pattern. So we're starting in here, it's played in. This player from the start will move into the deep position, okay? Then we obviously have our 1-2 in here. As soon as this player in here has set the ball back, they begin to move across, okay? The ball then gets played out wide to the crosser, okay? This player moves up to be the attacking midfielder. The attacking midfielder, okay, moves out wide to be the crosser, okay? Once the person out wide's crossed, okay, to the striker, they will then move into the striker position, and then the striker will move around and back to the start, okay? So obviously we need a few balls for this session, so people can instantly go. And obviously one side's going to be working off a right foot cross, one side's going to be working off a left foot cross. So instead of even, setting up a different area, the teams can just swap over. Okay, but obviously we want to try and adapt it so they're going from different sides as well. So they want them to move the ball quickly, okay, have that ability to take the ball out the feet and then play in front of the winger, okay. We don't want it to go to feet, okay, we want it to be that the winger has to pull out, okay, into space to then time the running behind to meet the ball to set into the striker for a first time finish. We will now move into our first animation before moving on to part 2 of this week's session. Now moving into part 2 of this week's session, we're now moving into our first small-sided game-based scenario. Okay, so we're going to be focusing on crossing and finishing from both wide positions and also receiving cutbacks as well. So how it's going to set up. So it's up to you depending on how many players, obviously if you're working with more or less players and whatever age group you're working with as well. If you're working with older players, you want to make the area slightly bigger, okay? Because obviously crosses in a normal game, when you're working with older players, it's a bigger pitch, a bigger area. Okay, so you want to try and make it as realistic as possible. Obviously, with younger players, the pitch is a lot tighter. Okay, so you can make it a bit more tighter in here as well. So standard would be if you have 40 yards of total width and 30 yards of depth. Okay, so 30 yards of depth is fine anyway. In terms of our 40 yards of width, 20 yards centrally, okay, and 10 yards either side, okay. But the only thing with it is, if you're working with older players, there's not that much room to attack, okay. In terms of, obviously, in here, you want the players to be able to time runs, you want the wingers out here to be able to whip balls in. So obviously you might want to make it a little bit bigger each side, but you don't want to make it too big because it's only a 4v4 in the middle. So start quite small, see how it goes, okay, and then if you want to increase it, that's fine. Obviously, if you're working with more players, you'll make it bigger anyway. So you're going to split your group into 3 teams of 4 plus our 2 goalkeepers. So you're going to have 1 player behind each line at the side here, so behind the goal. They can move wherever they want on there. And we're going to have 2 players in the wide zones who can move up and down as well. So for the players to score, they must receive the ball, okay, from one of the wide players. Okay, so if they receive it off them, they don't have to score. They can use them to keep possession as well. A wide player can't play instantly into another wide player. So if this player receives here, they can't play into this player. They have to play back into the team who's in possession. So to score from one of the wide players, it literally just have to go to them, okay, and they're looking to whip the ball in or cut it, obviously set a ball in for somebody to finish. If it goes into one of these players here, obviously they're used to keep possession if you're trying to attack the opposite side, but obviously you might have a player who receives the ball in a wide position here, the player's running on the far side, they set it in, it gets cut back, and then we're looking for a finish. Okay, so it's obviously receiving crosses from out wide, but also from higher areas as well. So the coach will start with the ball. If the team scores, okay, they will get the ball again and they'll attack the other goal. So as soon as we start, they can attack whatever goal. So the Blues will start. The Blues are looking to obviously keep possession. They're trying to work areas to get the ball. So we're looking for movement out of possession. The ball then might go to one of the players out wide, okay, who drives into space, and then we get runs from the far side for somebody to go in there and finish. Again, we're looking for first time finishes, 2 touch maximum when coming off a cross, okay, because it needs to be instinctive, okay, because it's harder for the goalkeeper, obviously, to save it as well. If they score, they will then get the ball again and look to attack the opposite side, okay, so obviously looking for players to receive it, looking to get it out, okay, might be play into here again, somebody makes a run and we're following there. So for the Greens, it's obviously when the ball goes wide, can we set ourselves to defend the cross, okay? When the ball transitions, can we defend one side? So if they've just scored this side, in this goal here, the ball gets played in, can we stop them attacking it here? Okay, so prevent the options, okay, if it does go wide, then we can look to drop, okay, but also put pressure on the ball as well. Then if the Greens win the ball back, they're instantly looking to score as quick as they can, okay, but obviously using the wide areas and obviously using the players in behind here as well. So they might get it, transition, then they might play out wide as quick as they can, get runners, obviously, into the box, okay, for a cross, finish, and there's the transition quickly, okay? So obviously, first off, secure the ball, then get it wide, and then look to finish. So they haven't just got options wide, okay, you've got options high as well. So if there's not an option wide, you can play into one of the players behind the goal, who can cut it back for somebody to finish. First time finish, especially from these cutbacks, okay? Because obviously, if we're receiving it on the run as well from these cutbacks, use that momentum, use the speed off the ball to finish in the corners. Then once you reach maybe a certain score limit, so it might be the first team to score 5 goals, or it might be a 5-minute game or a 3-minute game, then the winning team can stay on, or you might want to just rotate teams however you want to. You might even have 2 teams of 6, with obviously each team having 2 floaters on the outside, however you want to change it up if you want to progress the session. And obviously if you do have more players, let's say you have 15 outfield players, it'd be a 5v5 in here, and 5 players on the outside, or you can even have a player floating in the middle as well. If you have less players, then it might just be having 2 players out wide, instead of having players behind the goal, and you might be able to let one of the players move on the outside to receive it to set into one of their teammates unopposed. So obviously it's going to be a high intensity, so you want to try and keep the games quite low in time scale, okay, so the players aren't too tired and they can get some rest. We will now move into our next animation before moving on to this week's 4-corner model. Okay, so taking a look at this week's 4-corner model, starting off with technical and tactical. Okay, we're looking at our movement to attack the space. Okay, so that's looking from both our wingers, okay, who's going to be receiving the ball, so obviously out wide wingers, fullbacks, and then our strikers and attackers moving into the box. Okay, so what we want to be seeing is obviously in part one, when the ball is going to get switched from midfield out wide, attacking that space. Okay, our first touch into space to get some speed and momentum to cut the ball back, and then for our wingers, our strikers, okay, attacking the space in the box, okay. If there's a gap between centre back and full back, centre back and centre back, okay, attacking that space in between, okay, because that's where we're going to be looking to cross the ball, okay, to then finish. So the more momentum and speed that we build up, okay, the more speed we can get in our finish, the power we can get behind our finish as well, and then it's harder to defend the runs. Then we're looking at the accuracy of our crosses, okay, so obviously if players making runs into the box, they're going to be wanting it to feet or just in front. So when we're talking about attacking space, it's all about timing as well. So we don't want to be in the box too early. Okay, we want to be, as you see that player get their head up, okay, once they've took the touch and then the head's going down, that's when you can make the run. And then for the crosser, it's don't play to feet. Where's the space for somebody to run into? Are they coming from the far post? Are they going to run near post? Okay, that's why we're saying about starting our runs, okay, around. So if we set the ball back, to one of our wide players, we don't want to make a run in front of them, okay, because we're not going to be able to score from that angle. So once we set it, spin off into space, okay, we broaden our options to then attack the back post, run into the middle of the goal and attack the front post as well, because we can move onto the ball, okay, and not have to adapt, okay, and have the ball stuck under our feet. And then finally, our ability to play short and our ability to play long. So obviously in part one, we're looking at a short passing sequence to then open out and play a long pass. Okay, so as if, we're trying to switch the play. Okay, so the player's got to be able to play nice, quick, intricate passes, and then look at, okay, can we switch the play where there's a weak side on the opposition? We might have, a fullback and a winger up against the opposition's fullback, which means we can use the overload. Okay, it's to create space to then attack the space. Okay, so the players have not only got to be able to play short passes. Okay, having that ability to open up and play a 20 or 30-yard pass, obviously depending on what age the players are. In terms of our psychological corner this week, decision making is a big one. Okay, that's both our runs, both our cross, and then our finish. Okay, so with our runs, it's timing again. So our decision making is once the players took their touch, okay, the head's down, then we're looking to make our run. So obviously we want the player to get the head up, scan the surroundings, okay, as the crosser mainly, when they receive that ball, they take the touch into space, get the head up, okay, how many players are in the box, okay, what space is it waiting for? Is it between the keeper and the 6-yard box? It's got to be pinpoint. Is it on the edge of the box? Is it the near post, okay? Is it the far post? Okay, so it's that decision making early, okay, and then we can focus on the accuracy of our crosses from there. Confidence, so having that confidence to take the ball into space to cross, having that confidence to finish first time, having that confidence to open up and play the passes, playing quick, short, intricate passes. So that comes both in the player's self-belief, okay, and then the coach and obviously the teammates as well, instilling that as well. So giving the players the confidence to make those decisions. And then finally, our awareness, scanning our surroundings, our awareness of where the defender is, where can our movement be, our awareness again as a crosser to where the space is too. And then moving into our physical corner, one of the main things we're looking for is our ABCs and our body shape, okay, of both the crosser, okay, the players attacking the ball, and then when we're passing as well. Okay, so when we're receiving a pass, okay, what's our body shape to open out, okay? So if we're receiving a 1-2 and we're looking to play out wide right, we're not going to move on to the ball as if we're going to play out to the left side. We're going to open out to then take the ball across the body to play a ball into space. Okay, in terms of our crosser as well, we're going to move onto the ball where we want to attack it. We don't want to make a straight run onto the ball. We want to come onto the ball so we can take it inside, okay, and broaden our options for either a cutback, okay, or a cross. Okay, so when we're saying about timing our runs, don't just be standing on the pole, okay, especially in part one. Move off it to then attack the space in behind, okay? And then finally, for our finishes, or people attacking the ball, making sure that you can see the defender's back. Okay, so in a game scenario, it's seeing the number, because if you can see the number on the back of the defender's shirt, okay, that means that the defender's got to focus on the player, okay, and on the ball as well, because you're on their blind side. So then all it takes is a little glance back to the crosser and you make that run behind them or across them, okay, and then you get that slight advantage if they're flat-footed, okay. All it takes is that half yard to get in front to then finish. Looking again at our speed of play, okay, speed of our crosses as well, so putting pace on the ball. It's harder for defenders to do with, which means there's more chance of deflections, to get corners. It might even end up in the back of the net. And then the speed of play in terms of, obviously we want to move the ball quickly to get it wide, both in our sequence at the start and in our small-sided games. And then finally, our social corner, communication, okay, so providing players with information of where they want to receive the ball, okay, where the ball might be going, time, man on, can they open out and play, okay, so a little bit of information for the players, as we always speak about, which is so important. Taking ownership and responsibility. So obviously with the crosses, we don't want to be having to tell them where exactly they've got to put the ball, okay, because they have to adapt to where the touch goes, where the space is, so letting the players take ownership and responsibility in that final third. And then finally, teamwork, okay? So giving people encouragement, giving people praise, giving people support so that the players are more confident, okay, in doing them crosses, in finishing in the first time, in opening out, okay, and playing into space, okay? So working as a group, okay, to get the end reward. Before we carry on with the rest of the video, I've got some exciting news. Our website will be launching on Monday, the 2nd of November, where you'll find content for coaches and players, including session plans, which contain a full description, animation, setup and four corner model, as well as tactical analysis, which is all available for just $4.99 a month or for a yearly fee of £50. So head over to jackedwardscoaching.com now, where you can subscribe for exclusive news and content. Now moving into the final part of this week's session, we're moving into our second small-sided game-based scenario. Okay, so now everything that we've done before, the sequence in part one, okay, our crossing small-sided game in part two comes together for this final part. Okay, so we're going to be looking to play wide, obviously, but we can also switch to play as well to then create space to cross again. So the setup, okay, it's going to be 30 yards of depth. Okay, again, you can adjust that for more players. It's going to be 40 yards of width with 20 yards in the middle and 10 yards either side. Again, you can adapt that more if you want to make it a little bit bigger in here, or you can be a bit smaller out wide and give an extra 5 yards in the middle each side. So we're going to split our group into two groups of 6, okay? So in terms of in here, we're going to split our depth in there is going to be 15 yards for each zone in here, okay? So just 2 cones in the middle is simple, only in the wide areas. So each team's going to have 2 players in wide areas, polar opposite to each other, so diagonally opposite, okay? So when, let's say the Blues have got the ball here and they're attacking this goal, okay, they've got a player high, wide right and a player deep on the left side, but this player is able to play, okay, but also switch the play as well. So these players have to stay in their zones for now. You can adapt it where they can move anywhere, so their knees are going to be opposed as well. They can tackle each other and stop each other's runs. And obviously, when they're trying to attack the other goal, it becomes the opposite side, okay? This player will attack, will be the deeper player, this will be the high player. And like you say, you can even swap them halfway through. So the coach will play in to the team to score. They have to score from out wide. Okay, so what we may be looking to do is a little sequence, okay, to get the ball wide. Then we look to switch the play, okay, and then we're looking to attack the box, okay, to score. So again, it can be a cutback or a cross in the middle, just depending on obviously where the player's runs are. So again, we're focusing on that psychological corner, and then obviously the body shape where we're receiving it, where the defenders are. Okay, so timing our runs into the box. If the team scores, they get the ball again, and then they'll look to attack the other side. So it might get played out, and then it might get played into the middle, okay? We open out, okay? And then we have runs again into the box to finish. So for the team who's not in possession, the thing for them is okay, can we frustrate the opposition, okay? Put them into areas where it's hard to receive across, there's not much space, okay? If we win the ball back, they look to attack quickly, okay? So let's say they defend the cross in here, they win the ball. We don't want them to turn and just shoot in that goal, okay? We want them to go and attack the other goal, attack the space, so maybe get it here, open out, get the ball wide with players attacking the space, getting high up the pitch, okay? So then if we did lose the ball, there isn't a massive gap in midfield, we're all getting up the pitch, okay? Then we get players runs, okay? So it is even a little cut back into here, okay? Set in for a finish. If a team misses, okay, the other team will then get possession. If the keeper saves it and it goes wide, the other team will get possession again. So it's using your players out wide to keep possession, to create space, to then get the ball wide, okay? So it might even be one player drops in, one player drops out. It's a turn, open out, carry on, you run into the box, okay, to receive it and finish. Again, with that finish, first time if we can, okay, if we have to take a touch, okay, where necessary, but otherwise try and finish first time, okay. It's hard for the keeper to be set, okay, and finish first, and then someone finishes first time, it's harder for them to react, especially if the ball's going in the corner. Once you take a touch, they can see what type of direction you're trying to head to, so then it's easier for them to close down that space and it becomes a more complicated finish. We will now move into our final animation before concluding this week's session. Thanks for watching this week's video. For more content, follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook and TikTok. The links will be in the description below. If you haven't already, go and check out our website on jackedwardscoaching.com. And we'll see you next week for another Session Sunday.